Hello and welcome to Every Child Matters, a podcast by Because One Matters. I'm your host for this episode, Andrea Barkley, founder and CEO of Because One Matters. We are a Georgia nonprofit that exists to both positively influence and directly impact the path of foster children and young adults from low-income communities. Our purpose is to show children and young adults that their circumstances don't define them. We want them to know that they matter, they are loved, valued, and that they can be anything they set their minds to. During this podcast, we will talk to individuals with experience in foster care, from previous foster children to foster parents to foster organizations and lawmakers or policymakers. We know that individuals who have directly or indirectly experienced foster care have a story to share, and it is our privilege to share it with you. Today, we are talking with Alec McMiller, a former foster child and now a husband, dad, and successful business person. Please join us as Alec shares his Every Child Matters story. Hi, Alec. Welcome to the Every Child Matters. Good to have you with us. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Alec McMiller. I was born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. More specifically, I was born at Fisk University Hospital, where I was adopted out of Laverne, Tennessee, out of the foster care system at 3 months old. So I was very fortunate to be adopted at a very early age into a loving household by my mother and my father. My mom herself is a wonderful lady who actually has just adopted my little sister recently. So she can really speak to the foster care system as well as fostering a child. I moved here from Tennessee 5 years ago in Georgia to kind of start my life here. I work for a fantastic company, Gas South. And now my role is relationship management. I think that the foster care system and kind of my origin is where I am now, because I have always been fascinated with relationships. Growing up as the only child, I've always kind of hugged and tugged onto those relationships. So I'm having great success in my career now and using it in the Gwinnett community to help other nonprofit organizations and as well as my company as well.
Awesome. So I know you were adopted at a young age. You said 3 months. Do you know what led you into foster care?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually have the oral summary sitting right here just for reference, and I often come back to it. But yes, my biological mother, from what I'm reading, was in a very economic disadvantaged community in Nashville, Tennessee, when she already had a 4-year-old daughter. And she just felt like there was no way that she would be able to raise 2 children in her circumstances. So she just put me up for adoption to have a great chance at life. And I still haven't met her. I haven't met anyone from my biological history at all, actually. But if she does listen to this after we meet, she'll be happy to know that I did have a great chance at life and I'm not doing too bad for myself.
And that's interesting that you said that she gave you up for adoption or put in foster care because she wanted a better life for you. And sometimes we hear about the bio parents and we hear all these negative things about bio parents, and sometimes they're doing what they believe at the time is best for their child. Not all foster kids are in foster care because their parents are drug addicts or just bad people. Sometimes they're in foster care because of their family situation. So I'm glad you brought that up, because not all bio parents are bad just because their kids are in foster care, and that's a negative connotation that's out there, that all foster kids that are in care is because their parents are awful. It's not always the case, and that is one of the reasons why we try to help those from low income areas to help them so that their kids doesn't come into foster care. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Right. So you also mentioned that your sister. Did you say your mom is getting ready to adopt her, or she just adopted her?
She literally just got the approval process. So a couple more paperwork signed, and yeah, it's official. So yeah,
that is awesome. Mm-hmm. That is awesome. So you're gonna have a little sister.
I am. It's been kind of a long process. So she's always been little sister since I've met her. I guess going on 4 years ago now. But now to
Wow.
officially have her as a little sister, I'm so excited.
Exactly. That is exciting. So she was also in foster care?
Correct.
Oh wow. So we would love to talk to her to learn about how, can you say her age or is that
She is 6, so she
okay.
may not be the best
Okay, she may
interviewee.
not be the be the best guess, but she might be able to share some. So does your mom know a lot about her? Anything
Yeah,
about her?
yeah. So it's actually kind of a family situation
Okay.
that just kind of steered wrong, and they didn't want her to stay into the foster system, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And they were like, we have a great home here where she can have a great chance at life, and she has a sister as well, and not be separated
Hmm.
from her sister and things like that. So yeah, they
And
have
so
her
you
for.
just gave me another example. You just gave us another example of how a child can get into foster care. And again, not because the parents are awful or whatever. They could be siblings. It could be a family not able to take care of their child, and someone else step up in the family and foster and to probably eventually adopt that child.
Mhm.
So foster care, it's complicated. There's so many different myths out there about foster care that people don't know about. You know, you hear that, after 18, the foster kids get kicked out of foster care. That is not true. Kids could stay into foster care until they're 21. Many foster kids choose to get out at 18 because teenagers, they think they know it all. They think they could be out there on their own, or sometimes they're in a situation that they would rather not be in, so they check themselves out. But they
Mhm.
can stay in care until they're 21. The government will help them with school, and there's an independent living program that they could be a part of where they have their own space. And as long as they're going to school or have a job. So there's so many different things that people don't know about foster care. And so you just gave two examples of that is not all kids come from a really negative,
Mhm.
situation. So I'm glad you talked about that. So we are going to take a break. We'll be back with more from Alec from the Every Child Matters podcast after the break. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back, Alec. Let's talk about the foster care system as a whole.
Mhm.
I know that you were adopted at a young age, but in general, do you think the foster care system has changed? Do you think it has changed?
I think it has greatly. I was born in '95, so I was adopted out of the foster care system, obviously 27 years ago. Now, I also crossed state lines, right? I was born in Tennessee, so I know the foster care system in Tennessee is a little bit different than Georgia. Obviously, each state kind of has a different system. And I'll say it has changed for the better in some ways, just because speaking from experience and just asking those, kid questions growing up from my mom and dad, like how hard was it? And by any means, even my adoptive parents, but I call them my parents, but for the sake of the podcast, my parents, they didn't have the great means to adopt a child. And there's stories of they've told me that they wanted to adopt two. There was a little girl that they just it was me and her, and they said that we were inseparable pretty much the whole time I was there. And they just did not have the means to do it. And I think that it's changed from the grants and some of the applications and just the process from what I'm hearing and from other parents now that it's still while it's still kind of a hard strenuous process, it's a lot easier than what it was back in the day, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it is true. It's some things have changed. I know there's so much more awareness about foster care, especially during the holidays. You hear a lot more about foster care and what can be done during the holidays.
Hmm.
So I know our governor has done some things for foster parents, positive things for foster parents in the last few years, and we're going to continue to monitor those to hopefully get to the point where one of the things that is new is that prudent pairing, where at one point you couldn't leave your foster child with just anyone, family friend or anything like that, but now you can.
Hmm.
Um, partnership with foster parents and bio parents. That is big. I know Gwinnett County is really big on that, trying to have that relationship between the foster parent and the bio parent, so that when the child goes back home, if that bio parent run into a problem or a situation, they could reach back out to that foster parent for help. I know a few foster parents that have a really good relationship with the bio parents, and sometimes they get to babysit their kids once their foster kids, once those kids get reunified with their parents. So I think that is a positive thing. I know one foster mom personally that she sort of mentor a bio mom. She got herself in a little bit of situation, but once she got out, she mentored that bio mom. She brought that bio mom over for Christmas dinner, weekly dinners. She just helped her along the way. And now this bio mom is married and she's doing well. And it's in part because of that foster mom, her role in helping her get back on her feet. So I really do see that there are some changes. We've got a long way to go, but there is some progress being made. So
Right.
that is good. Yes. What do you think is the number one reason why you feel people should get involved with foster care?
So just speaking from experience and just, I always have kind of the not survivor's guilt, but just that guilt of being adopted at such an early age. And I did have some relationships with some of my foster siblings that were there a little bit longer than me. It's
Uh-huh.
just that they, that sense of just that love, right? It looks a little bit different when you have a household that you go home to every single night and you have that sense of I matter and I'm not just here on kind of another number in the system, right? That I have a home. And then also you touched on it a little bit earlier, but just like around the holidays is when kind of it's highlighted, but then it just seems like it kind of falls off right after the holidays, and then it's just kind of like back to not normal, if you will, but it's just like it's kind of like neglected, if you will, outside of the holidays, because they're like, oh, we got to do something for Christmas, but then what about their birthdays? What about just any other time throughout the year? Valentine's Day, love. They just need to be loved throughout the whole year. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed, and people need to get involved year round and not just during the holidays.
You are absolutely right, and that's what one of our thing is that we get a lot of support during the holidays, and we're thankful. We are thankful because it helps us to also to bring awareness. But you're right. After this December 25th, everybody goes back to their normal life. But these kids are still there, and they are kids. They still need the love. They still need the support. They still need to be celebrated. They still need to be recognized for graduating high school or even graduating middle school. They still need to be recognized that they got accepted into college. They still need to be recognized that on this day they were born. If they need to be recognized for their birthdays. And that's some of the things we do. We try to celebrate with them. We try to create memories with them. We do the birthday parties for them. We recognize their birthdays. We celebrate their birthdays. We recognize them graduating from high school. We recognize trying to get them, if they want to go to prom, we help them because we want to create those memories for those kids. We
Hmm.
want them to feel like they're a child, not a foster kid. We want them to feel just like a kid. Um, do you have, I know you were adopted at a young age. Do you have any other experience that you would like to share about your experience with foster care?
Yeah, so me personally, I wish I had the memory of an elephant to remember that far back. So I don't have any persistent memories per se for myself, but it was more as I grew up, as I stayed attached to some of my siblings, just because my mom did want me to have that relationship with them. So I just wasn't, I was adopted and kind of left, and they were just like, well, Alex off to his good life now, right? So the experiences that I saw, right, again, it just falls back to just really feeling appreciated, right? I could tell that when my mom would take me to visit my siblings or I would see them, all right, because I actually didn't live too far to where the foster system or the foster home I was adopted out of, I didn't live too far away. So when I would see them out, you could just see in my siblings' eyes, like, oh man, look, it's Alec. They were so happy to see me. And then you could also still just, no conversation had to be said, but you could still see it in their eyes. like, man, I'd love to be in that household, or I'd love to have what you have right now. And again, it just always made me have that kind of, guilt factor of, man, like I am really blessed and fortunate to be in the situation that I am in. So that's kind of the core memories that I really have from the system itself, is just seeing my siblings still being there.
Yeah, yeah. So your mom's getting ready to adopt your sister.
Hmm.
What has your mom shared with you, or has she shared anything with you about foster care, the foster care system, or anything in general related to foster care?
Yeah, just again, I can tell you some things from a cultural standpoint. My foster mom was a white woman that really didn't have experience with multicultural hair. So when I was born with a head full of hair, right? And it's just small things that boil down to, man, we got to learn how to do this child's hair. Same with my sister. She has the most beautiful, lustrous hair that you've ever seen. And my mom's no hairstylist by any means, but she really, really, loves to take care of her and make her feel seen and beautiful, and show her that there's different things that you can do with your hair from a cultural standpoint, right? And not just, you throw some water, slap it on, and then it's just frizzed out and muggy at the end of the day. So just small things like that, right, is that she shared with me from a system standpoint. We actually, just being honest, we've never really dove deep into the system itself, because my mom raised me, and I tell everybody this, she raised me in such a perfect way to where I was hers. Now, she let me know from a very, very early age that I'm adopted and that I'm blessed to be adopted, right? And again, just the miseducation of foster care and adoption in general. I mean, I can remember going to school and kids being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I heard that you were adopted." And I'm like, "What are you sorry for?" They're like, "Well, you don't know your parents." And, as if I'm some freak and I'm not normal. And I'm telling them like, "Hey, I'm blessed. I'm right here where you are. And, I was adopted. We're living kind of the same life." So I always went through life, as I was chosen. I'm special, and I'm meant to be here for a reason, right? And so that's more of the conversations that me and my mother had. And she just never really, I don't know, she just never really, neither one of us just dwelled on the system itself, and just more of life, if that makes sense.
And which is good. So she treated you as if she gave birth to you because she wanted it that way. So it was not important to say that you were in the foster care or this or
Right.
that, because you were hers. If that was it, that was it. And you made a point about being chosen, and you're right. And that's what we want these kids to feel like, that they were chosen. They didn't ask to be here, but they
Hmm.
were chosen. And so we want them to feel special, and we're hoping that society will treat them like that. And you brought up a point about going to school and kids treating you differently, and
Hmm.
that's something that foster kids have experienced all the time. Because if someone found out that this is a foster child, they're looking at them differently. And again, kids are going to be kids, they don't know any better, but they are going to treat them differently. And that is why when we have events, we tell people, do not refer them as foster kids. They're kids.
Hmm.
We want that label removed. The only time this should be say foster kid is on the legal paperwork or stuff like that. So and that's what we're hoping to educate people on. Don't say, "Oh, that's a foster kid." That's a kid, not a foster kid. The only word time you should hear foster, it's on documentation with
Right.
the defects office or the government or whatever. But if you're interacting with a child, it should be, this is a child. And I've talked to several foster parents, and they talk about how they're in the grocery store, and mom might be Caucasian and the child might be African American, and they're like, "Well, is that your kid?" And one foster mom said, "Yeah, that is my child."
Hmm.
And yeah, you should. And that's why we want people to treat these kids, foster parents, to treat these kids like they're kids, not as foster kids.
Right.
Because when you do that, you're taking away a little bit of dignity from them.
Right.
And that is very difficult.
Hmm.
So, anything else you want to share with us before we take a little break?
Uh, no, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right, so we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back for a little game called Would You Rather This or That? And we are back. Okay, Alec, we are going to play a game called Would You Rather This or That?
All
I'm
right.
going to name two things and you have to pick one. You have to answer really, really fast. No time for thinking. So just fast, fast, fast. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Glass half full or glass half empty?
Half full.
Ketchup or ranch?
Ranch.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
You're thinking, no thinking. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Night or morning?
Morning.
Rich and famous or rich and unknown?
Rich and unknown.
Passenger or driver?
Driver.
City or countryside?
City.
Attend a party or host a party?
Host a party.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Red wine or white wine?
White wine.
Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram.
Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
Watch sports or play sports?
Play sports.
Books or movies?
Movies.
Roller coasters or water slides?
Water slides.
Education or experience?
Experience.
See the future or change the past?
See the future.
Success or happiness?
Happiness.
Move in the yard or weed in the garden?
Ooh, mow in the yard.
That was fun, Alec. I want to thank you for being our first guest. Before we wrap up, I believe you have something that you would like to share.
Yes, I would like to share some amazing, exciting news. With my origin story that you guys just heard, I'm actually going to be joining the board of Because One Matters. My term starts in January, and I'm super, super excited and thrilled to get started and help with the mission. So you'll be seeing and hearing a lot from me. So that's my news, guys.
Yes, and we are super excited to have you also, Alec. I think, it's always good to have a diverse board, not only in gender or anything like that, but having a little bit of background in foster care or, something like that. So we are excited and can't wait for January 2023 when we introduce you to the world.
Amazing.
Yes. All right, everyone. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Every Child Matters. For more information on Because One Matters, please visit our website at becauseonematters.org. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast, leave us a rating, and follow us on social media at Because One Matters. I've been your host for this episode, Andrea Barkley, and it's been a pleasure to join you. Until next time, be a difference maker.